some movies and shows can be way ahead of the time. Some of them can be a tad dated. Or we've experienced far better things than the previous movies. Like the Alien 1 is a horror classic, but it can get old after replaying it after a while. Aliens. Look, the point is, some movies, some stuff, it's just not ahead of their time, or they have wore out their welcome. Which superhero movies has aged badly, I wonder?
We're sorry, but in the age of the MCU, we just cannot go back to these movies. Welcome to WatchMojo, and today we're counting down our picks for the top 10 superhero movies that aged badly. For this list, we'll be looking at superhero movies that don't hold up today, whether because of shoddy visual effects or an outdated story. Some of these movies weren't even that good to begin with, but they seem even worse in retrospect due to the quality of more recent offerings.
Accept it, child. You spent a lifetime caged.
If you like what you're hearing, be sure to check out the
Hancock.
Okay.
You want a cookie? Down on my face.
Asshole.
What?
You heard me?
Hancock had a lot going for it. It had an amazing cast. It was written by Breaking Bad's Vince Gilligan, and it told a fresh and intriguing story about a washed-up alcoholic anti-superhero.
I can relate to that.
Unfortunately, we've been inundated with anti-heroes as of late. Characters like Deadpool, Wolverine, and Logan, Snyder's deconstructed Batman, and Suicide Squad have all capitalized on the trend with varying degrees of success. While the anti-superhero was once a novel idea, it's since become normalized and expected, meaning that for it to work nowadays, the character in question really needs to stand out. Hancock remains a fun enough movie, but its impact and primary selling point feel dated.
Not bad. Everybody all right?
Number 9, X-Men: The Last Stand.
Here we go.
The third X-Men wasn't particularly well received. At the time, the wobbly script earned ample criticism from fans, but few could have predicted just how poor of a legacy the film would have. The Last Stand became the subject of retroactive behind-the-scenes drama when director Brett Ratner was accused of sexual harassment by multiple women in 2017. Around the same time, X-Men actor Ellen Page accused him of homophobic and abusive behavior during production. While not a reflection of the film, it certainly doesn't bolster its already underwhelming appeal.
I'm the Juggernaut, bitch!
Furthermore, the Dark Phoenix saga was readapted with a new cast in 2019, effectively making the film obsolete.
I don't want to fix it.
Granted, there are many who thought that Dark Phoenix was even worse.
I was trying to keep the pain away.
Number 8, Ghost Rider. Ghost Rider is certainly one of the hammiest superhero movies ever released. And it's a shame, because the character has a passionate fan base that was looking forward to seeing this gritty anti-hero brought to life on the big screen. Unfortunately, they instead got Nicolas Cage chewing the scenery, and a movie jam-packed with truly dreadful dialogue and visual effects.
You're pissing me off.
Okay. Sorry.
The CGI Ghost Rider sequences look like graphics from an early Xbox 360 game, for crying out loud. CGI tends to quickly age a movie, especially when it's implemented as poorly and cheaply as it is here. Ghost Rider had potential, and he's definitely a cool and interesting character, but this movie is borderline unwatchable.
looking for someone.
Back to hell.
Number 7, Fantastic Four.
Ooh.
That's what they're calling
The Fantastic Four.
Cool. The 2015 Fantastic Four reboot is truly dreadful, but that doesn't make the original any better. This movie was released in 2005, the same year as Christopher Nolan's Batman Begins, and that comparison doesn't do it any favors.
I'm Batman.
Even in 2005, this movie seemed like it was from a different era, one of the cheesier and lower budgeted superhero movies. The acting is wooden, it has a childishly bright color scheme, and the costumes appear cheap and unconvincing. Nothing against Michael Chiklis, but his thing feels like a supporting character in a children's television series.
Johnny!
It also has a palpable cheesy tone that plagues a lot of older superhero movies. It felt dated and out of touch in 2005, and time isn't doing it any favors.
A new day is done.
Wait a minute. So the cheesy stuff is outdated? Dude, I think the cheesy stuff can work. You just gotta have good writing and whatnot. I mean, the Christopher Reeve Superman has some cheesy moments. Spider-Man, the Sam Raimi Spider-Man, had some cheesy moments. But it has good writing and stuff. And also, the Sam Raimi Spider-Man trilogy isn't that silly. Stop saying that it's that silly. It's not. I'll get to those movies someday, but let's just move on.
The day of the Fantastic Four.
Number 6, Spawn.
What's the matter, Jason? You don't recognize your own handiwork.
Todd McFarlane's Spawn comics were hugely popular in the 90s, and many fans really wanted to like the 1997's feature film adaptation. Alas, the movie proved disappointing, and has only gotten worse with time. While mostly everything about it is bad, it's the horrendous visual effects and CGI that really date it. Just look at Spawn's descent from the ceiling and the climactic fight with Malbolgia.
It's time to the Astro! Come and get me!
The latter is particularly appalling, and it genuinely looks like the final level of a PlayStation game. Honestly, in retrospective viewings, it kind of looks like a parody of itself.
The Nostalgia Critic said that the CGI, especially the final battle, is a bunch of PS1 bullcrap.
Number 5, Steel.
That's great. Staying away from those knuckleheads and doing something legit.
Steel stars Shaquille O'Neal as the very subtly named John Henry Irons, who is nothing but a blatant Iron Man ripoff. Irons is a weapon designer for the military, and when his weapons find their way onto the streets, he uses his technological prowess to fight crime under the moniker Steel. It is a dreadful movie in every sense of the word, and it's as obnoxiously 90s as they come. You've got cheesy costumes, terrible production design and visual effects, and of course, Shaq trying to be a movie star.
Don't turn the red switch. She'll get too hot for you.
It's one heck of a nostalgia trip, but as a movie, it's truly horrific.
Look here, boy, you be careful, yeah? If you ain't Superman, and you damn sure ain't getting paid.
Number 4, Superman Returns.
I don't know. I kind of liked it.
Superman Returns might not nearly be as bad as Spawn or Steel, but it's certainly aged in other ways. And not just because it stars Kevin Spacey and was directed by Bryan Singer, both of whom have faced allegations of sexual abuse.
Yes, well, we can thank the Man of Steel for that. I mean, he's really good at swooping in and catching the bad guys, but he's not so hot at the little things.
The movie just feels unnecessary, awkwardly sandwiched between the Christopher Reeve series and the rebooted DCEU franchise. A sequel to Superman and Superman 2, it ignored subsequent sequels, making it even more of an outlier in the franchise.
It must be tough coming back.
I'm coming back.
To work.
Yeah.
It received mostly positive but somewhat lackluster reviews at the time. Today, die-hard Superman fans will likely return to the Reeve films or watch the DCEU, effectively forgetting this movie.
Well,
I hope this experience hasn't put any of you off flying. Statistically speaking, it's still the safest way to travel.
Okay, Superman Returns is not a masterpiece, admittedly. And sometimes it's a little dull, but I don't know, I kind of like it a little bit. And there are some scenes that I really enjoy, particularly the airplane scene.
3. The Punisher.
What makes you any different from them?
They have something to lose.
This is another case of later installments making a movie redundant. The Punisher was critically eviscerated when it was released in 2004, but general audiences seem to enjoy it well enough.
One went bad, and I get this why. Because you want to scare me?
Unfortunately, it hasn't gotten much love since Thomas Jane left the series and a sequel called Punisher Warzone was released in 2008. It was tough to watch. Following that, the character faded into obscurity and was not heard from for nearly a decade before returning with a vengeance, this time as part of the Netflix Marvel Universe. Compared to this gritty modern take, the 2004 film comes across as cheesy and painfully tame. John Bernthal eclipsed Thomas Jane in every way imaginable.
Frank Castle is dead. Call me the Punisher.
Number 2. Daredevil.
Oh.
The MCU really killed these old Marvel movies. Then again, maybe that's the point. After all, do we really want to remember Daredevil?
What do you want?
Probably not.
Justice.
The 2003 movie has always been considered one of the most disappointing superhero movies to date. And the director's cut, while admittedly superior, isn't enough to untarnish that legacy. Much like Fantastic Four, it seems older than it actually is.
You're holding back.
Yes.
The cinematography is flat and unassuming, and the action sequences come across as amateurish. That playground fight alone is enough to give you secondhand embarrassment. In every way, the film pales in comparison to the far superior Netflix show, making it even harder to go back to.
You can hear everything, but you can't hear that.
Be sure to subscribe or set it.
Robin. The mid-90s were a truly dark time for the Caped Crusader. Batman Forever took the series in a truly unfortunate direction. It swapped the grim, Burton-esque atmosphere for a more colorful and campy tone. It saw Jim Carrey and Tommy Lee Jones hamming it up as the Riddler and Two-Face.
Here's a good one.
No. There is a good one.
And then Batman and Robin happened. We don't need to tell you how awful this movie is because you are well aware. It's infamously bad.
What killed the dinosaurs?
The Ice Age.
And if it wasn't unwatchable enough in its own right, the infinitely superior Christopher Nolan trilogy effectively ensured that no one will ever watch it again. We're sure someone has rewatched Batman and Robin since 2005, but we highly suspect that it was done ironically.
Do you agree?
I don't... Was there an honorable mention? I just missed it. I think I will replace Superman Returns with Catwoman, but I digress. But Batman and Robin. I've never watched the movie, but I am glad that I didn't. It... Call me crazy, but if I had the chance to put in ice puns and like, if I decide to write a story or animate something and I come across an ice situation, I would probably put in ice puns. I mean, come on. One-liners are supposed to be cheesy and stuff. Some people hate one-liners, some people like them, some people are mixed, but who cares? It's supposed to be frustrating and or funny, depending on the latter. Or you just laugh at how bad it is. But what ifs? But yeah, there are superhero films that we definitely are not gonna go back to. I mean, let's face it. We had far better films. up to this point, especially the Marvel Cinematic Universe, even though it's not perfect. The Marvel Cinematic Universe movies, they're not perfect, and there are a few that I do not like to watch anymore, but at the same time, there are a few that I like to watch, like the Avengers movies. But with that said, it's best to just move on. If you like what you see, please consider liking and subscribing to my channel. It helps out a lot. And I hope you have a good day or night, and take care.